Uy, las luces.
Muy a tiempo. Bueno, buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. My name is Mónica Mistrete. I'm the General Director of Net Media. We publish the magazine Information Week in Mexico, and we also have several news portals. So it's an honor for me to be here with you, facilitating this panel where I am somehow representing you. So I hope that the questions I will be asking will respond to your interests. I believe that by the end we will leave some time for you to send me your questions if they are not covered during the dialogue. I believe that you've already seen our panelists today. It's really strange to have in the same place three fierce competitors such as Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. Even though here they seem very innocent, they're really aggressive. People say that women are from Venus and men are from Mars, but I believe that you come from three entirely different planets. You come from a store? No, you come from a search engine, I'm sorry. You come from a search engine. Amazon comes from a community of online buyers, a merchant, and then Microsoft, platforms for desktop applications. But now you're somehow, all of you, these three different planets are converging towards the same sort of orbit, and maybe you might clash. There's a new store within the new operating system. Here we have devices. Here we have the Kindle. Here we have more than applications. We also have the cloud. And in the case of Google, we also have devices, a smartphone, operating device. Who would like to begin? What's in us for... What's in the future for all of us? Who will be king? The one who has all three things, cloud, smart devices, the OS. So what do you see in that future? I was going to say the one who has Genexus will be the key to the future, just to begin. Everybody loves you already, so there you have a ticket for the coming year. I don't know what the future will be like, but Genexus will definitely be there. Wilson, would you like to begin? I can give you the floor. Thank you. Well, we clearly see an invasion of technology in the human population. In the past, we've been used of talking of 1 billion people accessing technologies. At least from our perspective, we have 1 billion users in terms of Windows, legal users. Of course, there are others who are not so legal. There are almost 1 billion users of Office, but there's even a wider population in the world. So the major challenge that all IT companies have is make our technology accessible to the other 5 or 6 billion people that are living in the world in the coming years. So that's the major challenge, accessibility. Of course, here we have the mobile world, which for many people that's their computer. More and more, we see that there's such progress that tablets and smartphones have had, together with other devices, that this is enabling people to use them, and maybe during that day they're not even turning on their computers as they would have done before. In many emerging countries, that is even the only computer that person might access to. So we have powerful and intelligent devices that will provide connectivity, not just to the old beloved 1 billion people living in the more developed or developing world, but this will be more encompassing to the rest of the world. That on one hand, multiplicity of devices, and on the other hand, the major revolutions that we see in the future mean that the ways of interacting that people will have with these devices. Of course, we're used to having a keyboard, a mouse. Now we're used to having touchpads and touch screens. But we have a way of thinking that we will have natural user interfaces that will be related to talking, to the smartphone, the tablet, voice recognition that extremely sophisticated, and making gestures without having to touch the screen. So those are computers and multiple devices, in tables and chairs, in things. That's the computing of things. Same as we have the Internet of Things, we will have a pervasive computing, which will be available in many places. And of course, Microsoft wants to be there and to have a small part of all of that. And in the case of Amazon, well, I'm very sorry for speaking a mixture of Portuguese and Spanish because I come from Brazil. I hope you will be able to understand. You speak Portuguese so that we won't be able to understand, but you understand perfectly well Spanish, so that's not fair. Well, I believe that a keyword in Amazon, this is very interesting, is to talk about interoperability. I believe that for the people who use devices, this will be very clear. For example, myself, I use an iPhone as a telephone. Isn't that a bad word in Amazon? No. No, everyone has one, and we are selling them. We sell everything. We sell iPads, we sell iPhones, tablets with Microsoft. We sell different books. I have the Kindle Fire, but you can have anything you want. And we sell it in Amazon. I have an iPhone as a phone. I have the Kindle Fire. I also use Windows in my job. So I believe that interoperability is a key word here. That is why Amazon really believes in cloud computing as a platform that it is interoperable with different possibilities, either with Linux, Windows, Genexus, several development platforms in Amazon, and I believe this is the future, to use technologies to help ourselves both as people and as companies. I believe this is a key word. That is why I believe Amazon grew so much in cloud computing, precisely for being a platform that has everything. We have parts in Microsoft, in Google, in Oracle. They're all partners in this, and I believe that's interesting. And in your case, well, you are going on for Android. Well, I will tell you what my assessment is about this in terms of device or the cloud or applications. This year we began working with developers in different concepts, and the first thing we told them was to have a new architecture or an already known architecture that was updated, where the main thing, and we will see this in the coming session, there's a huge circle that would be cloud services from our point of view. And we have an annual event where we are showcasing all the Google technologies. And I believe that we were all very surprised, which was a glass project. That project was some sort of glass that had a mini cam that did many things live. But the main thing for engineers here and for the world in general, devices will vary. It's important to have Android, and we will analyze why we need to have Android. Because of its variability, etc., it will be pervasive. I'm also a fan of having different applets on the fridge, on the table, on the chair, and that's possible thanks to certain features of a mobile OS. But the cloud services are more and more important, as our colleague Jose mentioned and Wilson mentioned, but the access of all those services will be fundamental. As users, we will also care about the place where we have all the applications, and those who have the best quality will be winning. So my answer should be a step above the set of the services in the cloud that will be further subdivided, platforms, infrastructure, or services in general. So you all agree that there's a future on the cloud? Would there be some sort of agreement in terms of that? I don't see that you're very convinced of that. Well, I understand why Google says that the future is on the cloud, and Apple has showed, which is a competitor that Microsoft has. But the device is essential. I believe that each of us will agree, because the solution is not the cloud or the device. It's both of them, the service, the hardware, the retail experience, the consumer experience of buying a device. All of that is becoming associated, and that's what consumers want to nowadays enjoy, from buying on a store and having the product delivered on time, to having a very good, nice, good-looking hardware that's connected to a cloud where the data are stored. So we're going towards a situation where all these aspects are relevant. So it's an experience, a complete experience, yes. My opinion, which maybe is the most politically correct opinion, I believe that users are choosing the whole experience. If I buy a device without content, if there's no video, no music, no subscription, I live in Chile, for example. I'm Uruguayan, but I live in Chile. If I buy a Microsoft device and the music store is not working in Chile, then it will not be complete. Probably I will change. Why? Because the music service might be available to another brand, so the experience is being assessed more and more in a more complete way. The cloud, the device, and the service that's provided. In that sense, I fully agree with Wilson in that comprehensive approach, ecosystemic approach, but I wanted to make a point in terms of the variability of the devices. I don't think that it will be a certain device, Android or another one. This will vary, because for developers it's important to think that they're developing something for a whole set of things. And GeneXus, precisely one of the main advantages it has, you might correct me if I'm wrong, is precisely that, to be based on an idea and then to generate in different devices. But in terms of the cloud, even this can be replicated, there will also be a fight there as to what to choose. But those are points of view. So what type of challenges does this present to software developers? Who of you are software developers? Please put up your hands. There are very few. 1/3. Users? Which of you are end users? Okay, business users. And the rest, what are you then? Just regular people? Maybe you were brought from GeneXus. Are you part of the staff of GeneXus? But the thing is that we have developers here. And from that perspective, what's a challenge? Because with GeneXus, I believe you can develop once and deploy everywhere. That's sort of the motto they have. But in terms of your application, nowadays you're competing with the whole world. Applications development nowadays would seem to be simpler, but there's a whole new array of possibilities. But that also poses the difficulty of having competitors from all over the world. What would you say there? Especially for countries such as those that we live in, where we are not the ones who are developing more applications in the world. What would you say, Jose? As a developer, it's interesting that this is a challenge because we need to compete with all the countries in the world, but at the same time, we have the possibility of reaching many people and being able to place our apps and selling them for everyone, for the US, for Europe, Japan, the whole world. And with the cloud, that's very simple. So I believe that this ease of building a mobile app and being able to place this in the app stores throughout the world and being able to access all this market is a major advantage for everyone. I believe this is good because it helps to expand the market for everyone. We have many examples of Brazilian companies that build apps in English, in Spanish, in Portuguese, and they can do that for many countries. So they sell much more. So with this possibility in the cloud, with app stores and devices, we really have a position where we are on an equal footing with other countries. What would you say, Wilson? Well, I agree with Jose. Rather than a challenge, there's a world of opportunities out there. Even if we have competitors from Germany that will be competing with us as developers, there's also the German market for us to win over, or the Chinese market. In China in 2008, there are 60 million billionaires. That would be like 20 times the population of Uruguay. And I'm talking about people who are billionaires. So if we could only sell something to that 60 million billionaires for Uruguay, the trade balance would be totally favorable for Uruguay if we were able to service that market. So I fully agree with my colleague from Amazon. I believe the main challenge is to, as Nicolás has said in his presentations, I believe our mistake is that we sometimes feel that we are less than others. In our tech, they never felt that they were less competitive than others. Now they're selling in Japan, they're selling in China. The main risk that we have as Latin Americans is to think that we're not able to do something from Brazil, from Uruguay, or from Chile. That is, we need to think big. Our complexities as emerging countries, the complexities of our colleagues in Argentina, of our colleagues in Brazil, because of the different situations in those countries and the history that we had. This makes us be more prepared for things that maybe Americans or Anglo-Saxons are not prepared, because we are immensely creative. So we have other highly competitive factors, but we need to be able to take that opportunity and go for that opportunity. And that's the main thing that I want to share with this audience. We need to fight for our opportunity. So is this a more cultural thing? So, is there everything to be done? Well, regarding that, I will tell you about the experience that I had this year. I attended some 60-something conferences throughout Argentina and different parts, also Uruguay, Santiago de Chile, and Peru. And there I found huge talent there. I'm fully convinced of the Latin talent. It's incredible to see the cultural mix. We see that in the startups, that's sort of the DNA of startups. But in terms of the challenge, I have found many which are related to architecture in general. When you start to develop applets for the cloud, it's not the same as to do traditional applets. So this is where we have differences between our major corporations and in educational systems. So we started to assess this situation from the grassroots, and then we escalated this, and we saw that there's a lot of uncertainty in the architecture that I need to implement. But before GeneXus, you had to work in terms of the platform. There's a lot of money involved in going for the platform. And now you can develop once and then have it extended to any OS. But the scenario shown by GeneXus is quite interesting. But I was talking at a more conceptual level than to go to the applet. A challenge for developers is that, besides from GeneXus paving the way for many things, the architecture that you need to bear in mind, that's where the challenge is. And then when we have mobile, I divide this into 3 levels: the user interface, the core scenario, and then we have another level that is related to the integration with other apps. I will be showing which these are further on. But when we started with this, one challenge was to think about the architecture, or then to think, is this mobile, is this native, is this meant for the device? And here we have a number of assumptions that are related to the engineering per se. And if you take a look at international conferences on cloud, or there is very little in terms of software. In my case, my PhD is related for software development products with applications evolutions, and I found there are a lot of challenges from a conceptual point of view. So, I'm sorry. When I'm asked about the challenges, I believe that's related more to those scenarios. As our colleagues told before, in terms of sales or adoption, that's different. But in terms of engineering or development, I believe that there's an issue in terms of training. Nowadays, this will depend on the features of the application. This will depend on the market niche that we're talking about. Today, I would say to develop and generate native for different platforms. Is HTML5 already a reality? Yes. It is being used, and it will give you a much wider framework, and you will keep a single engineering line. So you will be developing one thing. But those are points of view. We could argue a lot about this. You also mentioned the cloud challenge per se, which is another way of thinking, even from a user point of view of major corporations. There's always a discussion as to going to a public cloud, the private cloud, the hybrid cloud. I believe that we're still trying to understand what each of those things is, and in that sense, I would like you, since you are major players and you are playing in all the American continent from Mexico southbound, what can you tell about adoption? How ripe is that concept in our countries, and how do you see, what do you think about the evolution thereof? It's interesting that Amazon, which is a cloud computing Amazon unit in Brazil last year, in 2011. Now we have data centers in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and this is interesting because Amazon made this investment, this capital investment in South America and Brazil specifically, in order to have a data center headquarters of all this technology that we had in the U.S., and now we have it in Brazil. So when this happened, now we have offices in Brazil, and we're supporting all the offices in Latin America, so we're seeing a very large growth. We cannot talk about numbers, but we already have dozens of thousands of clients in Latin America, more than 200 partners in Latin America, and that was in just 1 year. So this is something that's incredible. I believe that companies in Latin America are really perceiving the advantages of the cloud in terms of elasticity, pay-per-use, how they can make their applications grow according to the user demand. And what Amazon does, I believe it's also important for you to know, because since Amazon has its data centers in Brazil, Amazon also has a technology that's very innovative, which is based on what clients demanded for major corporations. We can have a dedicated link between the data center of the client and that of Amazon. So we can place a dedicated link or connection with the Amazon data center with that of the client. And with this, you have a secure, totally secure connection. Isn't that really expensive? Well, telecommunications do fail in many countries. People think this is expensive, but it's actually not, because when you do that with Amazon, the price of data traffic falls. So Amazon charges less when you have this dedicated link. So you pay less when you have this with Amazon. You pay less per traffic. So I believe that for major corporations, this is something that's essential. And it makes it very interesting because you can have a private cloud within the Amazon cloud. So you have the virtual private cloud of Amazon. You can create a private cloud with your data center so that you can really have a hybrid cloud. Many people talk about this, but how do you work with this hybrid cloud? Amazon already has a solution for that. And this is precisely what I wanted to tell you. Well, this was not about advertising, but maybe the people from Genexus will have to charge for this afterwards. Well, but this is why the use of the cloud really grew in Brazil, in Argentina, and Uruguay, precisely because with this option of doing this directly with a lower latency, I believe this was a key point of the growth. Yes, connections are paramount. Otherwise, if you have no connection, then you won't be able to have the services. Windows Server 2012 is now positioning as the cloud. Are you going in for the cloud together with Azure? I believe that everyone knows that that's the direction that Microsoft is adopting. So what do you think about the adoption in Mexico and other countries in Latin America? It is clearly one of the most important technological revolutions that we have right now. Microsoft is totally committed to that. Adoption depends on the client segment. If you're talking about end consumers, I would say that hundreds of thousands or millions in Latin America have already adopted it because it's easy. If I take a picture and then I upload it to Facebook or my hard disk on the cloud, then I'm already there. So adoption in terms of end user or end consumer, there's not much to lose there, even though if I ever lose all the pictures, then I could be in serious trouble with my wife if I lost all the pictures from my children. I don't know if you've ever lost pictures or many pictures from your family. Believe me, it's quite a complicated thing. So I believe adoption of the end user in terms of the cloud services, to be able to read a book on a device, to conclude the reading and to continue it on your way on the taxi, and the fact that the device continues on the same page where you left. I think we're already having a lot of services that are hosted on the cloud. So I believe that adoption is well on its way in terms of end users and will continue to speed up. That's my opinion. That's why Windows 8 is the most connected operating system with the cloud that we have developed. And that's our approach. The second client segment that massively is adopting the cloud because of economy, cash flow issues are SMEs, small and medium enterprises. They need to access technology. How do I build an electronic website for my company? How do I have email? How can I be more productive for my staff with 10, 15, 30 employees? And if I'm selling services from Chile to a company in Germany, I need to be able to look like a very important company, and I need technology for that. Well, so far, I had to acquire that technology to make a capital investment, capital expenditures, and capex for startups or SMEs that would be $10,000, $20,000. Well, that could be a problem for some companies because it could be the salaries for the next month. So the driver here is the economic force that needs to change the acquisition model of technology in general. Instead of having that capital investment, I will have operational expenses. And I'm changing that. I'm replacing that. Instead of paying for the electricity bill, I'm paying for using technology. So the main motivator in small and medium entrepreneurs is the fact of being more in line with their own cash flows. And of course, this is an accelerating factor because technology somehow forces me to be familiar with it and to consume technology. I'm not an electrical engineer and I have no idea how electrical energy is distributed. However, if I put on the light at home, then I have light. Lately, we were used to have some sort of engineer in the house in order to be able to have a computer in a company, to have a server. So SMEs are the second segment that I consider the most important clients, where we meet with other colleagues from the other corner. That's SMEs. End consumers and SMEs. And then we have major corporations. Major corporations would rather have their own data centers. Why? I do have cash flow, I have money on the bank, so why would I put this on a data center that's outside my country? I am a bank from Chile, from the government, so I need to have the information with me. So in that scenario, that's the slowest one, even though this is moving there. And as Jose mentioned, there is this sort of vision of hybrid cloud. Not everything needs to be run on Microsoft Data Center. We also have this vision. We provide part of that data center. We will send it to you. You can put it on your desk. Your data will be there, but Microsoft manages them at a worldwide level. And these are the sort of three major segments where we are seeing this revolution that's here to stay, that's here to accelerate everything. I don't know if I was clear in all three trends. We're working on all of them.
Yes, I agree with Wilson in terms of the SMEs. There are many requests that we get from that segment. As you know, Google supports entrepreneurs, and we have many startups that are opting for solutions in the cloud to begin developing. And now we have I+D scenario with a cloud solution that is quite new, research and development in different parts of Argentina. And this is beta yet, but it's being tested. But there is a cloud solution that is called computer ending, and we have, it's similar to an infrastructure solution suggested by Amazon. But I'm surprised because this requires much computing, and of course at the general level it's taking time also to introduce this new paradigm in general in the mindset of people, in the mindset of middle management. And I agree with what you said about hybrid. And there's one last point which has to do with social approach. I think that this cloud and this cloud scenario will be important for people and companies that require the social magnitude at least in the segments we are living. People want to live like a reality, like with a social approach for permanent cooperation. In that segment, we need to have a cloud solution. In those scenarios where things become more hybrid. And what is confidential I will keep, what is public or social I can disseminate. But we need thousands of people, we need cooperation, and this is where we are getting good results at the level of clouds. And the challenge is the architecture. We need to think about that architecture. In addition, apart from releasing capital, so the capital expenditure becomes an operation investment. In some cases that we have analyzed at the level of Information Week, we see that companies find that the cloud is very agile in terms of time to market. And also the IT services are much faster. They can provide a ready-to-go server with an OS, with all the resources available in a matter of hours, or in minutes even. Between Amazon, Google and Microsoft, we almost have 1/3 of the servers sold in the world. The economic power of Microsoft, Google and Amazon of buying servers and putting them together cannot be compared by other clients. No client would be able to buy that and manage that. If you think about private clouds, can you facilitate a virtual server in a matter of seconds? That would allow you, apart from responding faster, it would give you possibilities for research, for innovation. And I think that means releasing resources for innovation. Maybe you go to the public cloud or a hybrid thing, as you were talking about. This will allow me to be free from the data center, free from worrying about applications and resources and timing and so on. We leave that in your hands and we just innovate. We play with the applications, we recreate, we do tests without being afraid of doing that. Yes, today 80% of the costs of IT are in the data centers and not in innovation. So this can allow you to innovate, to be free from services, from that burden. And this brings me back to developing applications. I think that at the level of corporations and users, which is not professional development, it is those that develop for their own companies, this will open up new opportunities. What can you say about these new opportunities? For example, about this new wave of applications and platforms that Microsoft is releasing. Well, clearly, let me share an experience first. In Chile, in Uruguay, in Argentina, in Brazil, no doubt. We are working with a company that was just sold. It has 15 people, 15 Chileans and a few Argentinians who prepared games for Facebook. It was a small startup that had been able to obtain capital and could buy technology. They would buy the servers and the software. And they could start their small undertaking, but they didn't know where the traffic was going to come from. They didn't know whether they would be successful, whether this would work. Facebook is an example. And these people, they didn't even have a physical space where to operate from. They didn't know where will we put the servers if things are successful. We need to use the bathroom. So this company decided to choose Azure for a cloud services platform. And this company received 50,000 users from Turkey. The Turks were happy with that software. And they were not able to estimate in Chile that this was going to be so. You know, Microsoft has replication services here and there that bring the content close to where it's being consumed. So one customer in Turkey could see the services offered by this young man in Chile as almost local. So they became very successful. A Japanese firm decides to buy this in $6 million. 2 years of work, 10 people. But this is not the first time they do something like that. This is the third time this Chilean group of young men create something and then sell it. In the former traditional model, they wouldn't have been able to do that. But the model of paying for the use is good, because we want them to be successful. If they are successful, more Windows Azure on the cloud will be consumed. So that's the kind of mindset that we look for. And this is here to stay. This is the future. This is the economy of scale that is created, and we cannot go without seeing it. Some clients, of course, can adopt it more easily than others, and our job is to accompany those large customers who are slower, to help them analyze the scenario so that it makes sense to them using a public, private, or hybrid cloud. I may not use a public Google, Amazon, or Microsoft cloud, but the concepts are here to stay, and I will have to organize those concepts within my own company. I have to create virtual links, and some companies are even creating this internally to do this from one department to another. Pemex is doing that in Mexico. Pemex is the fourth world oil company, and it's in Mexico. They have 200,000 different services and costs. So when the users request any kind of resource, they must give a price to that, because even when internally this is costing nothing, they need to know that that has a cost. Some companies are doing internal billing. There are not many, but there are a few. And this is facilitated by the concept of the cloud, whether public or private or hybrid. Well, to get to that point, I guess that the first thing is that we've been talking about the cloud for the last 10 years, at least 8. Well, Amazon was one of the first in 2006. In 2006, I was in a Web 2.0 conference in San Francisco, and you were talking about Kindle, and I thought that he was going to refer about Amazon and the shop and the consumers. We sell this, we sell that. But then he started talking about something very strange. I didn't know what that was. And the term cloud had not been coined yet. And I thought that he was selling idle capacity in the servers. And I said, how come he's renting idle capacity? What's that? And from then on, many things have happened. The virtual technologies have matured, security has matured, there are many myths about security, how safe are these applications, what about confidentiality, how about security of access, what would you say regarding that, regarding how this has matured? Because I know that you are clear about it, but what happens to us as users when we know that we depend on a connection to a cloud? God knows where it is. Well, in fact, in all conferences, I quote McKinsey. When they analyze several countries, they call them countries with aspirations regarding connectivity. I recommend this. It's very interesting. And they analyze the GDP of the most influencing country, and from those 30 he gets 9, including Argentina, Mexico, and other countries. And they analyze the internet infrastructure, the infrastructure of countries in general, not only the capital cities, but different provinces, and the mobile devices they use. and that point is not easy. So I start talking about the cloud and mobility and architecture and this and that, but then we get to a point where we analyze our own maturity regarding the structure of the country in general, and that's where we come down in the ranking. This is then to somehow find a trade-off, but I think we still need to grow in many fields. Many times when I attend conferences, it's hard for me to get connectivity to download my emails. This morning I arrived via the Buquebus, and they said, yes, we have Wi-Fi, but it never worked during the trip. Not here. It works perfectly well here in the conference, but while I was coming to Montevideo as I traveled. So I can imagine that the trends are to improve, which is good news. That's why we think about technology today, but let us not forget reality. Well, but security is now a myth, right? It's safe. You are not reluctant about that, especially corporate users. Well, when we talk about users, corporate users, when we show them all the levels of security that Amazon provides, and I think every company provides, all world providers grant security, there are certifications of security. So when we talk about certifications, these clients think, but in my own data center, I don't have ISO, I don't have these concepts in my own data centers. So this is interesting. A small client can use a data center that's worldwide data center with a security that is like the one you get from a bank, and they are dealing with Amazon, Google, Microsoft. The data centers have top security. This is the same concept that we manage with our own money. If I have $10,000 in my pocket, I will feel safe because I can touch them. However, if I go out, there might be a hold-up. The bank gives me a higher sense of security. However, my perception is that under the mattress is safer. I don't know. This is the phenomenon we are experiencing at the level of data. Our mission is to accompany the client in a series of decisions he has to make. Because here there are two things. One is being autonomous and having a potential, and the other is to be safe. There's nothing as safe as having a data center 20 meters underground that is close, no wires connected. I remember that I had a teacher in college that said there were certain types of computers and architectures in other eras that were extremely safe because they were not connected. They did nothing, or they only followed 5 instructions and they were not connected. And that's an option. You have to accompany your clients. Now, I need to provide more features. I want the directors to use this from their tablets or approve an order from their homes. So I have to somehow work it out. This is not magic. This is an engineering procedure to mitigate risk that I am ready to undertake or not. If I have information on Chilean citizens and this information comes from the government, maybe I will not be able to introduce it except in Chile. That's a requirement from the country. There are no technical issues here. It's a regulatory issue. It has to do with national security. So in terms of security, people, especially corporations that have critical applications, are more sensitized about this, and it could be safer than keeping it at home, and in the long run it's more economical as well. And one thing that is important is the green computing. Certain computing models are more favorable. We never think about consumption, and data centers are ready for that at the level of all corporations. Imagine that if we can generate clean energy to maintain those data centers, that's the best for all of us. That's another value that the computing in the cloud has. Yes, in Mexico at least, we don't get carbon credits if we are green, so we need more incentives, probably economic incentives. I think the carbon bond, going green, is not very attractive in some places if it does not involve money. Now, if you're going to save energy and all that, yours is a capitalist vision, because we are talking about improving the environment, because we are ecologically minded. I agree. All right, we only have 5 minutes left before we invite the public to raise questions. So there's one comment. We need to talk about GenNexus because they are the hosts today. So I would like you to take 1 minute, 1 minute and a half to tell me what is it that you like most about this tool, about this company. What about the future of GenNexus? What do you expect to get from them? Any ideas to exchange? Who would like to start? Jose? GenNexus, to me and for Amazon, they are a great partner. I think it's something very interesting at the level of GenNexus. They are always searching for innovation. They started a long time ago with an option to do something with the cloud. This is innovative, and this is one point that Latin American companies should always think about. We need to innovate. We need to innovate. There are so many technologies. It's not a matter of following one of the technologies. We have to use them to innovate ourselves. So I believe that GenNexus is a good example in terms of innovation. They are a good example for customers and for those who use Amazon, for example, who know that we are always innovating, improving our products, providing new experiences and opportunities for development. That's the strong point for me in terms of GenNexus. Wilson? That's an interesting question. What is GenNexus? I worked 15 years with Microsoft. I know if Nicolas is here, but on September 8, I celebrated my 15th anniversary with Microsoft. And for 15 years, I have attended this GenNexus meetings. So I'm 40, if you made your... Yes, I'm 40. And I started working with Artech and GenNexus at the level of Clipper. So 15 years ago, I entered Microsoft in Uruguay, and my boss, who was the corporate accounts director, said, you have a role, and your role is to position SQL Server. And Microsoft was a consumer company at the time. Now we are doing the enterprise, and we have to reposition ourselves at the consumer level. Of course, we have very strong brands at the level of consumers, like the tablets and telephones and so on. But my boss told me, this Artech GenNexus company is top priority for you. You will never get to enterprise without Artech GenNexus. So I came to meet Breogán 15 years ago. I explained to him what SQL Server was, how to run bank core, and I had to go through Artech GenNexus before going to other clients. And Breogán would look at me, he gave me a chance, and I showed that it could work. So the question, that's why I went 15 years back to say that it's a great honor for me and a privilege to be here once again after so many years. I feel that I'm part of the family. Sometimes I have represented our tech at the level of Microsoft Corporation, which is one of the largest in the world. The Microsoft people tell me, who are they? Where did you find them? Top-level people at world level. Yes, it's true. It's true. Our tech people should be proud about it, because you are the elite of the elite in terms of engineers worldwide. You are considered geniuses. You are the geniuses of Microsoft Corporation believe that you are geniuses as well. They are really surprised at what you do. And well, they are partners for us. They are essential partners. They are essential for Uruguay, for the region, for Latin America, for the world. And we have done thousands of things together with our tech Genexus. And Windows 8 is just one more. But we did many crazy things alongside our tech Genexus in a win-win relationship. And we, as Microsoft, started with a very low market share, like SQL Server, which was the first thing we did together. We grew, they helped us grow. So thank you for your partnership. Congratulations, because you're keeping on at the top level. And for the clients of our tech Genexus who are here, feel at ease, because you have a really, really top of the notch team working with you. Well, how are you going to manage to exceed this comment? Let's change the subject and talk about something else. What do you think about Uruguay? It's very difficult to beat you, Wilson, but let me end by saying that we talked about the cloud, mobility. I talked about my viewpoint, that there's going to be variability in terms of the devices. I think Genexus is fundamental. I did my PhD thesis in my professional life. I talked about models, based on models that are private. I'm not going to talk about them now. But this has to do with technology in that scenario. So Genexus is a crucial tool in this new challenge. There are many engineering challenges, but the tool that Genexus is proposing reduce the gap for companies that develop software and have specific scenarios for development. This is a fundamental tool for that scenario, to move towards the cloud, to generate a model, an idea, an innovation that can be deployed in a variety of devices through the generation of code. I think this tool can really project into the future and is going to be part of the future systems. Well, thank you. So now, please help us with your questions, because I have no more ideas. Semi-intelligent questions are not in my mind, and I will start asking silly questions. So please avoid that by helping me with interesting questions. Is there any subject we have not dealt with? Do you feel everything has been said? Speak now. You have three very important leaders of these historical times, and there are so many applications and devices available. Diversity, she said, promiscuity, but no, diversity she meant. Interoperability, and so on. Genexus helps in this, really, to have such a variety. Come on, no questions? If not, I will have to ask one question. Give them a prize. Maybe they have questions. What sort of prize? Maybe Wilson can hug them if they ask a question. Or a free of charge Windows 8 application. That's for the first question. Nobody dares. Okay. I will have to ask you. If you were not obliged to choose your own product, you cannot choose Android. What would you choose? You have to choose another that is not Android. What would you choose? I read a lot, so I would like a Kindle. Okay, very interesting answer. If you have a Kindle, you cannot use a phone. No. That question, your answer will not affect Google or Amazon or Microsoft, and we might lose our jobs. I will have another child in a month and a half, so be kind with us. Let us talk about something else. Unless Brogan wants to hire us in a short time. All right. If you, in 1 minute, had to summarize the technological future of your companies, what would you anticipate? I think you're building the future. You're not imagining this. I know Microsoft and Amazon and Google are working on the future. So, what about projecting your future into the next 5 years? What do you think about your tools, your platforms? Wilson, in 1 minute only. Well, I just want to invite the Genexus community to try the Windows 8 generator. Do your applications, it's ready. The engineering team has been working alongside our Microsoft together, and it's ready, so download it, use the applications, and try to reach to this consumerization of technologies, and that is reaching us. So we are moving from 1 billion people to hopefully the whole world with access to technology. And you can have it here in Uruguay, in Latin America. You have this very useful possibility, so use it. And I think that in the next 5 years we'll be able to move into levels that are unthinkable of today. And we will have this power in our hands, in the cloud. So use Genexus and Windows 8. Think that I'm going to have a new kid in a month and a half. Well, all the best for you and your family. Okay. Jose, what would you say about Amazon? When we talk about cloud computing, specifically cloud, I think there's one point that Amazon started this year, started this process this year, and this is going to become stronger and stronger. It has to do with high performance, and this year Amazon launched many resources focusing on high-performance computing for high-performance computer bases. And this, I think, is fundamental for today's applications. For example, our largest customer is Netflix. They have a system that make 1,100,000 transactions a second in the cloud. The database is very strong, and this innovation started with Google and Amazon. And you don't have good films. If you had good films, my goodness, it would be 3 times that, at least in Latin America. But they are improving their catalog, they are improving. So I think this is the future of the cloud, and the future is here with us. It's a matter of high-performance computer in the databases, in the cloud, and in the performance of data. This is the critical point in the application as big as Netflix or Instagram. These are key. Very good. And Google? It's difficult to imagine what Google will be in 5 years' time. It's difficult because in Google we are living at a very high speed. I imagine that they will maintain the cloud scenario and a strong technological convergence with different products and scenarios, and a very strong social scenario. We see the integration of solutions that will favor social exchanges in general as platforms, services. That's what I think will be the convergence in the future. Well, there's a warm round of applause for the panel members. Just in time. Thank you for your attention and for having a full house, especially as it was after lunch. I thought you would be going for a siesta as we do in Mexico. It's probably not a custom here, so enjoy your afternoon. Thank you.